Have you ever replayed a conversation from hours ago, wondering if you sounded stupid? Have you ever said, "I'm fine" on the outside while your mind was running 100 miles an hour on the inside? Have you ever felt like you can't relax because the moment you do, something bad might happen? You call it overthinking, but really, it's you trying to stay in control. You don't want to look unprepared. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to be the person who's caught off guard. So your brain stays on, even when your body's exhausted. You analyze every word. You try to predict every reaction. You plan what to say, how to act, how to make sure no one sees the cracks. But the truth is, you're not thinking. You're defending yourself. You're protecting the image of being capable, calm, put together, strong. Because what if they saw the real you, the one who's unsure, the one who's afraid, the one who doesn't have all the answers? We suffer more in imagination than in reality, and the suffering never stops, because your mind never stops trying to protect something you were never meant to protect, your ego. Overthinking isn't a flaw, it's a habit your ego uses to feel important and safe. But what if it's not keeping you safe at all? What if it's just keeping you scared? Let's talk about that. You think you're just being careful, that thinking through every detail makes you smart, responsible, in control. But let's be honest, you're scared. Scared of looking stupid, scared of being judged, scared of making the wrong choice, and having no one to blame but yourself. So you overthink. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You try to predict how people will react. You ask yourself the same questions over and over again. Did I say the wrong thing? What if they didn't mean it like that? Should I have done more? It's exhausting, and deep down you know it's not helping. But you can't stop, because some part of you believes that if you keep thinking, you'll eventually feel safe. That's the trick. Your brain has confused control with safety, and it makes sense. Maybe you grew up in a home where mistakes weren't allowed, where being perfect was the only way to avoid punishment, criticism, or shame. Maybe you learned early on that people like you more when you anticipate their needs and never mess up. So now, your mind tries to think ahead of everything. Stay ahead of rejection. Stay ahead of disappointment. Stay ahead of pain. But here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't protect you. It just keeps you stuck. He who fears death will never do anything worth a man who is alive. You're not trying to solve problems. You're trying to avoid feeling vulnerable. That's what fear does. It makes you believe that if you keep running simulations in your head, you'll finally feel in control. But you won't. Because the point of overthinking isn't to make things better. It's to avoid the feeling of being uncertain. And that's why your mind never rests, because life is uncertain and your fear hates that. The Stoics felt fear too. They weren't born calm, they just learned how to respond differently. See, we try to think our way out of fear. They did the opposite. They walked into it. Where we overthink, they simplified. Where we predicted, they accepted. Where we tried to be perfect, they were okay with looking foolish. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. They didn't try to impress the world. They tried to free themselves from needing to. You're scared of not being ready. They practiced being ready to be unready. You worry about how people see you. They worked on not needing to be seen at all. You build mental armor, they train themselves to take it off. Because the Stoics knew something we forget. Fear thrives in complexity, peace lives in simplicity. The more conditions you place on being okay, if I say it perfectly, if they understand me, if nothing goes wrong, the more power you give to things outside of you. The Stoics stripped all of that away. They asked one question: is this mine to carry? If it wasn't, they let it go. If it was, they carried it with clarity, not panic. They didn't avoid failure, they accepted that failure was part of being alive, and because of that, they could act, while the rest of us are still thinking. So how do you stop? Not just for a minute, not just for one night, but for good? You don't need more thinking. You need different tools. The Stoics didn't escape their thoughts by fighting them. They used small, deliberate shifts in how they lived, so their mind had less to fear and less to prove. Let me show you 3 of those tools. Start small. Start anywhere, but start first. The power question. Is this in my control? You've heard it before, but have you ever actually stopped to ask it? Not philosophically, practically. You're replaying a conversation. Was that in your control? No, let it go. You're worrying about someone's reaction. Is that yours to manage? No, let it go. You can't think clearly because you're trying to be perfect. Can you guarantee the outcome? Never, let it go. It's not just a question, it's a line in the sand. What's mine? I act. What's not? I drop. Simple, not easy, but it works. Second, premeditatio malorum. Expect the bad and be okay anyway. The Stoics did something radical. They imagined the worst, not to suffer, but to diffuse fear. What if it fails? What if they leave? What if it doesn't go as planned? Write it down. Then ask, if this happens, can I still move forward? You'll be surprised how often the answer is yes, I'll be hurt, but I won't be destroyed. And knowing that, it makes space in your mind, space that overthinking can't fill. Third, come back to the body. Overthinking is mental noise, your body is the anchor. The Stoics used physical presence as a reset. Walk, breathe, wash something, name 5 things you can see, feel your feet. Why? Because fear is future-focused. The body lives in now. The more present you are, the less room there is for imagined futures. None of these tools are magic. They won't erase all fear, but they will quiet the noise. They give your mind less to chase and more to stand on. A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. Your mind doesn't need to run everything, it just needs to know it's not running the show alone. Here's the truth most people never hear. You'll never think your way into peace. You'll only think your way into exhaustion. Because the mind doesn't want peace. It wants control. It wants certainty. It wants to protect your ego, and even if that means making you live in fear. But you don't have to live that way. You don't have to run every scenario. You don't have to say the perfect thing. You don't have to earn the right to rest. You're allowed to be unsure. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to live without answers. That isn't weakness, that's freedom. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. So maybe it's time not to think harder, but to let go sooner. Let go of needing to be perfect. Let go of controlling what others think. Let go of solving problems that haven't even happened. Because if you don't let go, your thoughts will keep running the show and they won't stop until you forget who you were before all the noise started. So ask yourself, Do you want to be in control? Or do you want to be at peace? Because you don't get both. If this spoke to you, even a little, leave a comment. Tell me the thought you're trying to let go of. You don't have to fix it, just name it. And if you want more videos like this, hit subscribe. Not because you need more content, but because sometimes we all need a reminder that we're not the only ones trying to stay calm in a chaotic mind.